focuses on the future of ham radio in India. The topic of the great significance as we advance into a more interconnected world. We are honored to have Brigadier Jaideep Chanda having the call sign Victor Uniform 2 Yankee Yankee Echo, a mentor and advisor to oscarindia Forum, share his thought. Please welcome Brigadier Jaideep Chanda.
Ria asked me a question. She said, why are you the Ladakh guy? So I need to answer that question. I'll cover a little bit about youth development and amateur radio and a lot of photographs and a small video. And I hope you'll all be happy to see those photographs. They're very interesting. And a lot of you feature in those photographs. Okay, so I'll start while they get the presentation going. I was there in Ladakh for about the last 18 months. For those of you who don't know, Ladakh is the northernmost part of India. It's a union territory. And for the first time in the history of Ladakh and in the history of ham radio, we were able to operate certain stations in Ladakh. And also, as of 13th of this month, 2 days back, we've had the first amateur radio station operators certificate, the ASAP exam, conducted at Ladakh. Temperature there right now is about -20, no central heating. Despite that, we had 2 faculty members and 28 students, 14 boys and 14 girls from the Ladakh University take part in this exam. Results are yet to be declassified, and we hope to be able to do much more there shortly. Right. Coming on to what I call the Ladakh experience. Now, this was a commemorative event. It was covered from 9,000 feet altitude to up to 13,620 feet. It was meant to celebrate the gallantry of the people of Kargil and Ladakh. I'm now specifically referring to the battles that have taken place there, and of course the organization, that is the Indian Army. We had 2 private members, a father-daughter duo, who were the first to come there. We had 8 clubs, about totally 41 hams and some SWLs, and we operated Q100, satellites, FT8, CW, and of course the phone. Over 10,000 QSOs. We introduced local students to ham and to STEM operations, and as I mentioned, culminated in the ASOC exams on 13th of this month. 14 boys, 14 girls, 2 faculty members, and our next step is to establish the first club, ham club in Ladakh. What are we going to need and what are we going to trouble you all for? Are for volunteers who will go up there, contribute some equipment, and help the Ladakh University set up the ham club. Can we have a show of hands? How many of you were in Ladakh over the past year? Over the past year?
Not past year, sometime.
Okay. We have 2 members below who had come. That is from the Indian Wave of Amateur Radio. And they've operated there. A quick rundown of the people who came. VU2 Alpha Zulu Kilo and Shrestha, VU2 November Hotel Kilo, are the ones who set the record of being the first hams who have ever operated from Ladakh and from an altitude of 13,620 feet. They're a father-daughter duo from Hyderabad. No clubs per se, they came as independents, and thereafter we had the Mumbai Amateur Radio Association with 4 members, including Mr. Jayesh Manatwala, Salesh Deshmukh, Jagdish Bhatt, and Shoyam Titna, who came. So totally, I've given the list on the right. We've had RIRCOM, Indian Wave of Amateur Radio, Upagraha Amateur Radio Club, which is the club from the Indian Space Research Organization, and we've got, of course, Lamakan, the Disaster Amateur Radio Emergency Service, and 1 member from the Organization of Disaster Managers. This entire team came over the past couple of months. They operated there, and then they had to fall back because of the other events which were overtaking taking place. Basically, the Kargil Vijay Divas Silver Jubilee. I'd like to acknowledge that this could only be possible firstly because of the support from the Indian Army and from the WPC. To the brave hands who braved the weather and came there. Of course, to my team of Chandramani, Angad and Kaushalendra, to the locals and students of that region who were extremely enthusiastic about participating in this event. And last but not the least, to Mr. Sandeep from the Indian Radio Regulation Service, the IRRS. Now it's a trend to, kind of do WPC bashing. But let me give you an example. Here you have one person who reached Ladakh from Jammu in minus 20 degrees, happily went there, conducted the entire exams and has now gone back. And this is his second, or if I'm not mistaken, his third visit there. It's because of people like him that this exam could be conducted, and we'll soon have our first hand club there. I'll stop here for a minute and I'll request Niladri, can you just play that video? Okay, just let it play. Don't worry, just let it play. They were operating from a bunker on the line of control. This is the feature called Point 13620, which has now been opened to public. This is at the Kargil War Memorial. This is RIDCOM, our friends from southern India. This is the Indian wave of amateur radio. The member who's right now set up a stall below. The ISRO team, and they did satellite operations from Kargil, and with the students of the Army Goodwill School in Farona. Indian Institute of HAMS, Dr. Satyapal and his team, with the students again of the colleges. This is the Lamakan Amateur Radio Club from Hyderabad. 7 members. And finally, the historic ham radio exam, which was conducted at the Ladakh University on 13th. The entire thing to reach this stage has taken about 16 months, or maybe even 18 months for us to get the permission, conduct the events, create the awareness, and then carry out the final test. And that in the center is Mr. Sandeep from the IRRS, who has made this possible by volunteering to go there at short notice in extremely inclement weather and getting the exams conducted. As I said, the next step, results are awaited, and establishment of the club. Thanks. "44 photographs, but we'll go over them very fast so you don't get bored. Put them on slide mode, please. So this is with the team from Mumbai Amateur Radio Association. As you see, they came very well prepared for the event with a large amount of equipment. So this is where they are setting up the antenna. Imagine this is the first time this antenna is being set up. The kind of terrain out there is difficult to say the least. I don't think this is working. Just keep pressing. Next. This is inside the bunker, operating at, like I said, about 13,000 feet. Next. Next. with the members of the school and the college of the Ladakh University. Next. 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 At the War Memorial. Next. 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 This is with the Rilcom team. Next. 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 Again, back in the bunker. We couldn't go to the bunker every day because of the snow. Next. 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 This gentleman is downstairs. He's operating the exhibition. When he landed up there, unfortunately, he felt so sick, we had to evacuate him to the hospital and he couldn't operate there. It was a 2-member team, but his son continued the operation despite his father being in the hospital, and we managed to do a number of QSs. Next, please. Next. 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 Yeah, just keep going. Keep going. Catching them young. That's the number of QSOs they manage. Next. Okay, we'll close it here. Thank you. Come back to the original presentation. Youth development is... Next. Let him do it, he'll do it. So this is the standard definition of youth development I've taken from the internet. In fact, it's from the US website, which says that youth development is the process of preparing young people for the challenges of life, fostering their full potential. Next, please. Yeah, this is from the US National Alliance for Secondary Education and Transition. India also has a definition for youth development. Next, please. In India, youth development refers to the process of supporting and empowering individuals between the ages of 15 to 29. So if you're below 15, you're not exactly a youth, but if you're above 29, you're also not a youth, you're considered a full-fledged developed adult. Next, we do have a National Youth Policy of 2014. The National Youth Policy 2024 is presently being drafted, and you can still submit suggestions to it if you so desire. Next. Now, what the youth policy does next here? What the youth policy does is that it defines 5 aspects which are to be developed under the ambit of youth policy, and these include education, employment, youth leadership, health, and social justice. So the question that now arises is, how do we marry these with the aspect of ham radio? So as I mentioned, there are 5 things: education, we've got employment, youth leadership, health, and social justice. Now the question is, how do we marry this with ham radio? Next. Just go next. Now, one more, yeah. So there's something called SOS, which the American websites talk about as far as the development of youth leadership is concerned. And the first thing they say, the first S is services, and it says that basics such as education, healthcare, and traditional services that are generally provided by public welfare, health, school, and recreational programs is what comes under the category of services. What comes under the category of opportunities, and this is important, just pay attention to this. Vehicles that offer youth meaningful and real ways to influence the world around them, nurture their interests, talents, practice and enhance their skills and competencies, and increase their connectedness to the community. What does this remind us of? Vehicles that offer youth meaningful and real ways to influence the world. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I read this is he's referring to something like ham radio. Ham radio is a vehicle, is an opportunity. It provides the youth meaningful and real ways to influence the world around them. Think disaster management. It nurtures their interests and talents, practice and enhance certain skills and competencies which we are seeing live, and increase their connectedness to the community. And the third S is the support, ongoing positive relationships that young people have with adults, peers, and organizations that provide the safety, structure, motivation, nurturing, and guidance to allow youth to explore, test, learn, grow, and contribute. I don't think of a better definition alternative definition for ham radio? If that be the case, how is it, or how do we, this is the concept, how do we contextualize it? Next please. So they talk of the 5 C's, the 5 C's being competence, confidence, connection, character and compassion. There's nothing original about this. You Google, you'll find these 5 C's in the context of youth development. But where I have contextualized it is what is important for us, and especially those in the field of education and in the sphere of youth development, that this is going to come through. Next please. So when we talk of competence, think of a person who studies the theory of the activity, that is about the radioactivity, radio waves, theories of propagation, basics of electronics, rules and regulations. And you get a person who's about to take his ham exam and who's going to develop what we call competence. Competence is what leads to confidence. And how does he get his confidence? Next please. He acquires license. He starts operating the radio, he starts setting up the antenna, he starts communicating with the other hams and thereby building up what we say confidence. So it is this competence which leads to his confidence. Next please. The moment he starts communicating, call signs are exchanged, familiarity on the band increases, emails are exchanged, mobile numbers are exchanged, QSL cards find their way across the oceans. And this youth who we are now trying to develop achieves connections. He starts to develop his connections. And thereafter, once he's done that sufficiently for a long number of time, what does he do? Next please. Hams typically reach out to hams either through mobiles or through WhatsApp or through forums like this. And they seek and provide help and advice from each other. Now the connections have developed. In this process of connections, the hams learn the language of the hobby, what we call one world, one language, and develop respect for the rules, the norms, the DX code of conduct, and the standards. And this compliance with the rules, this compliance with the hobbies, with the standards, is what develops what we call character. Doing the right thing when nobody is looking, in a simple way. And finally, once you've done that enough, you have the aspect of compassion. Next please. In the process of this give and take of ham radio, the successes, the failures, the highs and lows, the ham develops compassion. And it is this compassion which makes him take up the radio and move to a remote area to assist the people during disaster affected times and offer their services. Now these 5 things, if you don't have competence, you won't have confidence. If you don't have confidence, you won't develop the connection. If you don't develop connections, your character doesn't develop. And if you don't develop your character, your compassion will not come. And I don't think we have a better example than ham radio for youth development because of this. Next please. Finally coming to the topic of this lecture, the future of ham radio. So oscarindia is possibly one of the best examples of youth development that we have in India today, especially in the context of ham radio. But that's not enough. We want more such oscarindias to mushroom all over India. Every state should have an organization like this. And educational institutions such as SNU, which give us this platform. We need every state to have colleges, universities giving us this platform. And we encourage more such institutions to integrate amateur radio into their youth development programs as well as their STEM programs. So it's both ways. Finally, I always say this. I think ham radio is one example where I have found the government doing more than the hams themselves. This is one place where I feel that as hams we are falling short. I mean, nothing stops us from creating an awareness program for CISF staff. CISF is the Central Industrial Security Force, which is the security provider at the airport. So today, if a ham has faced a problem in getting a radio set because the CISF man on duty does not understand what is ham, it is not his fault. It is our fault as hams. We have done nothing to educate them. Nothing stops us from creating a small YouTube video for CISF staff. Nothing stops us from creating a small infogram for CISF staff in a language that he understands and promulgating it or circulating it amongst them so that they know what to ask, whom to ask, and when to allow and when not to allow. Next, please. Thank you. I have finished. If there's any question, I'll take on. Otherwise, we'll hand over to Riyaz next.